Hey, welcome to MTG Collector's Corner. Today we are going to talk about Duskmourn. So the full set's been released, and we're going to talk about all the cards. We're going to talk about the Mark Rosewater teaser that I talked about a couple weeks ago. We're going to go through that and see how close I was on some of my guesses on the cards. I did nail some of them. Some of them I were way off on. And then we're going to talk about some of the cards that I see that are probably the best cards in the Duskmourn set that have the greatest potential. We'll talk about some of the cards from this set that I personally love flavor-wise. We'll talk about the flavor of the set, what I think about it briefly, and then we'll talk about cards to look out for at your Duskmourn pre-release. Hopefully you are able to get out to one. So let's do it. I do want to give a little plug to my Facebook page. So I started this project, it's unnamed as of now, where I'm trying to collect every single non-foil basic land card in this big binder. And I'd like your help with this project. I'm trying to hammer out the details on this, on which cards should I go about collecting, what we should name the project, the name of the binder. I'm trying to start some discussions over on my Facebook page about this project, and I need your guys' help. So head on over to my Facebook page. I do have a pin post at the top, and I've got a couple other posts asking for your guys' help on, especially like naming the binder, figuring out a name for the project. And if you are interested in one of these big binders there, Collect a Beast binder, holds 1,280 cards, 20 cards per page, which is perfect for the land cards, which is, why I decided to even start this project in the first place. So if you want to order one of those, go to my Amazon storefront. I do have them featured there. It is really cool. It's gigantic. I do talk about it quite a bit in my binders video. So if you're interested in the Collect a Beast binder, go watch that video. I'll link it down here in the description. So the first part of the teaser is a component of this set with the frame using technology first designed for an unset. So the first idea that I threw out in my previous video was attractions, because there is a carnival in this set. And the second thing I threw out was the augment mechanic, kind of referencing a human centipede. Well, neither of those were correct. So the cards that he was talking about are rooms. These are enchantments, and the enchantment type is room. These are all split cards. One side has one ability, the other side has a different ability, and they both have 2 separate mana cost. So the way rooms work is you pay the mana cost for either side, it doesn't matter which one, and put it on the battlefield, and you get that effect. Then, at any other point at sorcery speed, you can pay the mana cost for the other half, and then also get that effect. So these are pretty cool cards. The art on a lot of these are really cool looking. There's like a space in between each side of the room, and it's supposed to kind of look like what would be in between the walls of the rooms. So these cards are pretty cool. It's an interesting mechanic. It's something they've never done before, and I think it's a cool way to use these split cards. So I mean, basically they're 2-for-1s, unless it gets removed in the meantime. The next one on his list is a tweak on an ability word that first appeared in the 3rd set of a block. So my initial thoughts on this one was Soul Bond, which was a mechanic that appeared in Avacyn Restored, which was a 3rd set of a block. So we've got all the cards revealed now, and this mechanic is the Eerie mechanic. So the Eerie ability is whenever an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, you get the effect. So the original ability that this was Constellation, which appeared in the Journey to Nyx set, which was the 3rd set of the Theros block. Which, kind of really makes sense since that was also an enchantment-themed set, just like Duskmourn is an enchantment-themed set. So we've got some cool Eerie cards here. We've got the Scrabbling Skull Crab, which is kind of the new mill guy. But we've got some pretty cool Eerie cards. One of my favorites here is Fear of Sleep Paralysis. And this has the Eerie ability that you get to tap a target creature and put a stun counter on it. And then it has the ongoing effect that stun counters can't be removed from permanents your opponents control. So you can permanently stun your opponent's creatures, which I think is pretty cool. Then we've got the Entity Tracker, which seems pretty good. It has Flash and has the Eerie ability that you get to draw a card whenever an enchantment you control enters and whenever you fully unlock a room. This seems very abusable to me. I'm not going to go through all the Eerie cards, but there are some pretty cool abilities here that seem very easy to do and abuse whenever enchantments you control enter. All right, moving on is the counters used in this set: +1/+1, -1/-1, flying, finality, lifelink, lore, loyalty, nest, possession, rev, stun, and time. So in my previous video, I did say that we knew about all of these counters except the possession counter. This ability appears on the card Unwilling Vessel, and it says, whenever an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, put a possession counter on Unwilling Vessel. You get to put these possession counters on there, and then when Unwilling Vessel dies, you get to create an XX blue spirit, where X is the number of counters on Unwilling Vessel. And it's interesting that it doesn't say possession counters. So it looks like you could load this guy up with all kinds of counters and make a big flying spirit. I might be wrong about this, but it doesn't say possession counters. So if there's any judges watching this, put it down in the comments if I'm correct. But it just says number of counters. So it could be, in my opinion, any counters. It could be +1/+1 flying. It could be all those ones that we just named in Mark Rosewater's teaser. So that's the third part of his teaser. The next one is, it's the first ability word to reference second main phase. So I didn't really have any guesses for this one. Let's just jump into it and see what this ability actually is. We've referenced second main phase in Bloomburrow, but we didn't have an ability word that referenced it. So in Duskmourn, we do get that ability word, and that ability is survival. So survival cares about your creatures being tapped or untapped at the beginning of your second main phase. Survival is found on all of the survivor creatures in this set. There's, I think, around 14 or 15 of them. The one that looks the best to me is this green one. It's Kona Rescue Beastie. It is a 4/3 that costs 3 and a green. It has survival, and it says, at the beginning of your second main phase, if Kona Rescue Beastie is tapped, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. So this looks like the best of the survival cards, and there's quite a few ways normally in Magic to have your creatures without having to attack. There's crew, saddle, convoke. There's a bunch of different ways to tap those creatures to trigger this effect. So it seems like a decent mechanic for all these creatures. So the next one is a 10/1 creature for blue, 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 and that's all the clues that he gave. I did predict that this was going to be a 10/1 creature, with the downside of it kind of being like an illusion creature where you have to sacrifice it if it becomes the target of a spell or ability. But I was not right on this one. So the card that he was talking about is the Mind Skinner. It's a legendary creature. It says the Mind Skinner can't be blocked, and if a source you control would deal damage to an opponent, prevent that damage, and each opponent mills that many cards. I feel like this card is going to give the blue mill decks in Commander quite a leg up. So you notice that it says each opponent. So you can attack somebody and everybody's milling that many cards. It doesn't matter who you're attacking, as long as a creature or a source you control would deal damage to an opponent, prevent that damage, and each opponent mills that many cards. So I think this is a very interesting card, and I can't wait to see what kind of decks people come up with to feature this card. So that's the 10/1 creature for blue, blue, blue. So the next one is a variant on a mechanic that itself was a variant on another mechanic. My guess for this one was Undying, which was a variant on the Persist mechanic. It just switched +1/+1 counters for -1/-1 counters. Well, I was wrong again on this one. The mechanic that is in Duskmourn is Manifest Dread, which is a variant on the Manifest mechanic, which was a variant on the mechanic Morph. Here we have the Unwanted remake, and it says destroy target creature, its controller Manifest Dread. So the way you Manifest Dread is you look at the top 2 cards of your library, you put one of them onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature, and the other into your graveyard. If the face down card is a creature card, it can be turned face up anytime for its mana cost. So this is kind of cool. It lets you kind of dig through the top couple cards of your library and find something. And it's also kind of a variant on Surveil as well. Maybe like a better Surveil, since you get to put that creature or the card on the battlefield as a creature. So one of the cards that really stood out to me that had this mechanic is the Hauntwoods Shrieker. It's a 3 mana cost green creature for 3/3. When it attacks, you get to Manifest Dread, and then you get to pay 2, and you can reveal target face down permanent. If it's a creature card, you may turn it face up. So you get to basically turn your permanents on the battlefield face up for 2 mana, which seems pretty good. This looks like some kind of good stuff in green here that lets you do stuff for free. So one of the other cards is just called Manifest Dread, and it just says Manifest Dread. So you can pay 2 mana, it's a green card, sorcery speed, Manifest Dread. I don't know if it's worth 2 mana at sorcery speed, but if you can kind of combo it with that Hauntwoods Shrieker card here, maybe there's some fun to be had there. So the next one is a modal 3 mana white mass removal spell. So my guess was it was going to be a mass removal of enchantments or mass removal of creatures that had a certain power or toughness. And, well, once again, I was wrong. The card in question is Split Up, and it costs 1 and 2 white, and it's choose one, destroy all tapped creatures or destroy all untapped creatures. So kind of way off on this one, but this seems like a decent white mass removal spell because you can kind of control what creatures you're going to destroy as far as your own creatures anyways. I do kind of like the flavor text on this one. It's kind of funny. It says, "Don't be a wimp. We'll cover more ground this way. Ryan, former survivor." So so it sounds like Ryan maybe met his demise in the House of Duskmourn. All right, a character returns as a legendary creature that first appeared in flavor text in alpha. So on this one, I did speculate with the help of the internet that this was going to be Norin, and it turns out it is. So Norin appeared in the flavor text of the card Jade Statue from alpha. Norin did appear on a card as a creature in the set time spiral called Norin the Wary. He was not legendary, but this time we're getting Norin as a legendary creature. His name is Norin Swift Survivalist, and he has the creature type of Human Coward. His text says, Norin Swift Survivalist can't block. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you may exile it. You may play that card from exile this turn. So he's part of a series of cards that they're doing that have a slightly alternate art on them called Lurking Evil. And his is really hard to tell that his is different. You have to really look up here at the very top of the cards. You can kind of see a creature at the very top. So one of his cards doesn't have that creature, and then the Lurking Evil card, which is a slight variant, has the monster at the top of the card. A way better example of the Lurking Evil on the card, Reluctant Role Model. So as you can see, he's standing in the hallway, and it's just a empty hallway. And then on the Lurking Evil version of his card, you get slightly different art with the monster coming up the hallway at him. There is a small group of these cards. I think it's like 10 or 12 cards that have this alternate art on them. And I think it's pretty cool. So they did mess around with this type of deal a little bit in the Murders at Karlov Manor set, where they had slightly alternate versions of cards with like different colored objects in the cards. So I think this is pretty cool. I kind of like this. I would rather they do these types of things than all the different types of foils and all that stuff that come in the collector boosters. I just want the small subtle differences like this. All right, moving on to the next one is a new ability word that cares about a card type and a new keyword action. So the new ability word is Eerie, which we already talked about. It cares about enchantments that you control, and then the new keyword action is when you fully unlock a room. So it looks like he was just alluding to the Eerie mechanic here again, just with different wording in his clue. So we have new creature tokens. I'm just going to quickly go through the cards that make the tokens. So first we have the Dollmaker Shop. That makes the 1/1 white toy creature. We have the 1/1 white Glimmer token, which is made by Glimmer Seeker. We have the 2/1 white insect, which is made by the Overlord of the Nistmoors card. We have the 3/1 white spirit, which is made by the card Ghostly Dancers. We have a 4/4 white beast, which we already talked about in the last video we knew about. It's made by Toby the Beastie Befriender card. We have blue token copy. So this is made by another room card. The half of this card is Mirror Room. It makes the blue token copy. The XX Blue Spirit with flying. So that's another room card here. And it's the Misty Salon side. We have the 2/2 Black Horror, which is made by the card Defiled Crypt, which is another room card. We have a 6/6 Black Demon with flying. Another room card makes this one. This time it's the Ritual Chamber. You're basically summoning a 6/6 demon in that room. We have the 1/1 Red Gremlin, which is made by Midnight Mayhem. Actually, this card makes 3 gremlins, 1/1 gremlins. We have the 1/1 Red Balloon, which is made by the Jolly Balloon Man. He's the human clown. We have the 2/2 Green Spider, which we already knew about. That's on Twitching Doll. We have the 1/1 Black and Green Insect Creature, which comes from this card, the Swarm Weaver. You get 2 of those when he enters. And finally, we have the 0/0 Green and Blue Fractal Creature Token. And this comes from Zimone All Questioning. It comes from her card. And you're going to see her card here again later. So the next clue is unlock a locked door. And that is this card here, Ghostly Keybearer. It's 3 and a blue for 3/3 flyer. And whenever Ghostly Keybearer deals combat damage to a player, unlocked a locked door of up to 1 target room you control. So you get free room unlocks with this guy. So next we have search your library for a demon card. I initially speculated or hoped that this was going to be a card like Shadowborn Apostle. I was hoping that it would be kind of the like cult members for Valgavoth, that you'd be able to sack them and then search your library for a demon card. But I was wrong. It's actually this card, Demonic Council. So it's 1 and a black, sorcery, search your library for a demon card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle. It also has the Delirium mechanic here, where if 4 or more card types are in your graveyard, you get to search your library for any card, not just a demon card, any card, and then put it into your hand and shuffle. So it's kind of a different take on Demonic Tutor. All right, next one is where X is the number of creatures you control with power 2 or less. So I initially speculated that this was going to be gain life, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 2 or less. Guess what? I was right. So it appears on this card, Arabella, Abandoned Doll, 1 red, 1 white for a 1/3. Whenever Arabella, Abandoned Doll attacks, it deals X damage to each opponent, and you gain life where X is the number of creatures you control with power 2 or less. So yes, finally I got one right. And this card seems pretty dang good. This seems really good to have in your white weenie or token decks, gaining X life and dealing straight X damage. Seems pretty good. So I would keep an eye out for this card. It's legendary. You could run it as your commander. So yeah, looks pretty good. All right, next is exile any number of target instant, sorcery, and or Tamiyo planeswalker cards from your graveyard. And I speculated that this was going to be on a Nashi card, because Nashi's her son, and he is on this plane looking for her. But it turns out we're getting our kind of own Tamiyo card. So this is the Tale of Tamiyo. It's 2 and a blue, it's Saga. Mill 2 cards. If 2 share a creature type, draw a card and repeat this process. That's the first 3. Then the 4th one is exile any number of target instant, sorcery, and or Tamiyo planeswalker cards from your graveyard. Copy them. You may cast any number of the copies. All right. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. So I did speculate on this card that it was either a enchantment or an artifact, and it is in fact an enchantment. I got another one right. And it's a Leyline. So it's a cool enchantment. We're getting Leylines back. Well, we got this back in Murders at Karloff Manor, and now here again in Duskmourn. I really like the Leylines. They have the the cool ability where you can just throw them on the battlefield before your turn at the beginning of the game. So this one says choose a creature type when it enters, and then it gives all your creatures in all zones that creature type. So this is interesting. It's a blue that does that, which kind of like arcane adaptation. So this is just kind of that in a Leyline form. So yeah. So I don't hate this card. I think it's pretty good. Definitely has its uses. The Leylines, I think quite a bit of them see a lot of play. So I like seeing the Leylines, and it's kind of cool to see those a full cycle in this set. So yeah, so that's the Leyline of Transformation. So next is you have no maximum hand size and don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. So I had a couple of guesses on this one. I guess that it was going to be involved with the Tamiyo card somehow, because Tamiyo has the same ability on her Planeswalker cards. And then I also guessed that it was going to be a version of Triskaidekaphile, but it is not. I was right. It's a blue card. It's a legendary artifact, and it costs 6. When it enters, if you cast it, draw 5 cards. You have no maximum hand size and don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. Whenever you gain life, draw that many cards. Whenever you lose life, discard that many cards. Then if you have no cards in hand, you lose the game. So I don't know how I feel about this. I don't think this card gets played in a lot of decks. There's probably going to be some niche decks out there that kind of try to abuse this card. All right, we've got whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only a single creature you control, copy that spell. So I did talk about in my other video that they had creatures that did this already. There was Zada, and they had the Conspiracy card, Echoing Boon. And I mentioned how cool it would be if they printed that on an enchantment. And guess what? We get it. It's a Leyline. So it's the red Leyline, Leyline of Resonance, 2 and 2 red. Has the Leyline ability where you can put it on the battlefield. And then it says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only a single creature you control, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Pretty cool card here. The next one is shards you control become copies of it until the beginning of the next step. So I did speculate that this is going to be Nico because they are in this set, and I was right. It's Nico, Light of Hope. When Nico enters, create 2 shard tokens, and then you have the ability here to tap, exile target non-legendary creature you control. Shards you control become copies of it until the beginning of the next end step. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So this is pretty cool. You can make copies of creatures, and then you don't have to worry about them dying because your original creature is going to come back at the beginning of the next end step. If you pay attention to this art, they did mention in the Duskmourn panel at PAX that this is the only card in the set that depicts sunlight, and it's coming through the shard here on this card. So there's no sunlight depicted in the rest of the art on this set, except for on this card, Nico, Light of Hope. They're a mythic legendary for 4 mana. It's a 3/4. So this could be a new commander for you guys. All right, this says, of creatures you control that don't have the same name as this creature. So with this one, I guessed that the missing word was number, and I was wrong. It is activated abilities. So it's this card, Marvin, Murderous Mimic. It's a legendary artifact creature toy. Cost 2 is a 2/2. And it says Marvin, Murderous Mimic has all activated abilities of creature you control that don't have the same name as this creature. So kind of a cool little card. Looks like they made it legendary, so you can't really abuse it that much. It's got some pretty creepy looking art on it. And yeah, so this is a new colorless legendary. I don't know if anybody's going to be building decks around it. I'm sure somebody will, but so it's kind of cool that it has all activated abilities of all creatures that you control. All right, we get this one here. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, and 21 are prime numbers. We've seen this card already. This is Zimone, All Questioning. So we talked about her when we talked about the 0/0 green and blue fractal creature tokens. And so this talks about prime numbers with your lands. So if you control a number of lands that are prime numbers, then you get to create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token at the beginning of your end step. Then you put that many +1/+1 counters on. So I guess that this was going to be some sort of card that's like Fear of Prime Numbers or something. Obviously, I was wrong about that. And I speculated that it went up to 31 because, Halloween's on the 31st and it's kind of spooky and whatnot. But way off on this one. I did not see this one coming. I guess I should have, since Zimone is kind of like the math nerd from Strixhaven. So, yeah, I'm a little surprised by this card that prime numbers now. So that's interesting. So now we're on to the creature types in this set. So the first one is Creature Human Doctor, and he is on this card, Cult Healer. So he's a 3/3 with the Eerie ability. So whenever you have an enchantment or you unlock a room, he gets lifelink until end of turn. He's a common, not really too exciting there, not a way to, nothing to repeat over and over again with a way to abuse the Eerie mechanic, but commons need love too. Next up is Core Survivor, and it's this card here, Savior of the Small, a 3/4 for 3 and 1 white, and it has the survival mechanic, and it lets you return a creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand, and is an uncommon. Here's the Goat creature card. It's called Possessed Goat. It's a 1/1 for 1 white, but you can pay 3, discard a card, and put 3 +1/+1 counters on it, and it becomes a black demon in addition to its other colors and types. Activate only once. So basically you can play this guy on turn 1 and then turn him into a 4/4 later. Creature, Shark. And we have the Dagger Daw Megalodon. It's a 5/7 that costs 4 and 2 blue with vigilance, and it has island cycling. So island cycling is pay to discard card and search for an island card. So you can play it as a creature, or you can pay 2 and search your library for a island card. Next up is Creature Eye. We've got 2 of these. So we got Creeping Peeper. I kind of like the name of this card. Kind of a cute little creature here. And then we've also got the Abhorrent Oculus, which is a 5/5 for 2 and a blue, and it is a mythic. It has flying, but it also has an additional cost to cast this spell. Exile 6 cards from your graveyard. And it also has, at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, Manifest Dread. So, yep, this card's made for Commander. Give me Manifesting Dread. You're going to make it 2/2 pretty much at the beginning of each of your opponent's upkeep. And then on your turn, you can go and flip all those creatures over. Okay, next we have Creature Fish Insect. I did talk about Junji Ito maybe doing some art for this set. Turns out that's not true. But here's the Fish Insect. It's Piranha Fly, 1 and a blue for 2/1 flyer that enters tapped. Nothing too crazy there. Next, we have Artifact Creature Monkey Toy. I did talk about maybe having some Call of Duty Funland type stuff in this set. This is kind of close. It's a Clockwork Percussionist. It's a monkey toy, 1 red, 1/1 artifact creature with haste. When it dies, exile a top card of your library. You may play it until the end of your next turn. Moving on, we have Human Clown Berserker. This card is the Razorkin Horde Caller. And this is a very interesting looking creature. It's a creature on a unicycle, or is like unicycle is part of its body. Really kind of creepy looking. And it is costs 5 mana, 4 in a red for 4/4 with haste. And whenever you attack, create a 1/1 red gremlin creature token. And so this is another kind of interesting card because it says whenever you attack. It doesn't say whenever you attack with this card. So really just whenever you attack with any creature and this card is on the battlefield, you get to make a 1/1 red gremlin creature token. That's kind of an interesting, like kind of enchantment type effect with just a regular creature type. Now we have legendary creature Elder Demon. I did speculate that this was going to be Valgavoth, and it is indeed Valgavoth. It's a cost 9, 6 and 3 black for a 9/9 flying lifelink. It has a ward, sacrifice 3 non-land permanents, which is a pretty big deal there. So this is basically a one-sided Leyline of the Void effect on this card. But also you get to cast those cards that you exile with Valgavoth. Yeah, seems, like I said, gives me Gristlebrand vibes, the flying and lifelink. It's not drawing you cards necessarily, but it does give you the ability to play cards that aren't yours. And so finally for the creatures, we have a legendary creature, Rat Ninja Wizard, and I did speculate this was Nashi, and it is indeed Nashi. So he is a 2/2 for a black and a blue mana. Legendary Rat Ninja Wizard has Menace. When he deals combat damage to a player, mill that many cards, and you can put any number of legendary and or enchantment cards from among them into your hand. If you don't put any into your hand, then you put a +1/+1 counter on Nashi. So this is kind of our new ninja commander, maybe. Now we're going to move on just to card names. So the first one that he reveals here is Acrobatic Cheerleader. And so here's the Acrobatic Cheerleader card. It's a 2/2. It costs 1 and a white with the survival mechanic, and it gets a flying counter if you meet the survival parameters. Next is Don't Make a Sound. So Don't Make a Sound is a blue counter spell. I was hoping it was going to be some sort of silence type effect, but it is not. This is just a blue counter spell. It says counter target spell unless the controller pays 2, and if they do, then you get to surveil. So yeah, just your basic conditional counter spell here. Next is Exercise. I did speculate that this was going to be a card that would maybe be able to remove possession counters from creatures. It's not. It's just a regular white sorcery, 1 and a white for exile target artifact, enchantment, or creature with power 4 or greater. Then we move on to Friendly Ghost. I did speculate this was going to be a white flying spirit. It in fact is a white flying spirit. I did kind of imagine more like a kid ghost to go along with Casper, but we get more of the Disney's Haunted Mansion ghosts here. And so I kind of like the art on this. The ghost looks pretty cool. So it's a 2/4 flyer and for 3 and a white. And then when it enters, target creature gets +2/+4 till end of turn. Then we have Jump Scare. I really thought I had it with this one. I really thought it was going to be a blue instant that puts stun counters on a creature, but it is in fact not. It is not a card that I expected at all. It is an instant. It is white though, so it's a white instant. Costs 1 white mana. Until end of turn, target creature gets +2/+2, gains flying, and becomes a horror enchantment creature in addition to its other types. So I was way off on this one. Honestly, I think I like my card better, but that's neither here nor there. Then we have Let's Play a Game. I did speculate that this was going to be a fact or fiction type card. It is not. It is a modal card, though. It's a black sorcery. Costs 3 and a black. It has 3 different modes on it. You get to choose one unless you have Delirium. Then you get to choose more. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 till end of turn. Each opponent discards 2 cards, and each opponent loses 3 life. You gain. I think it would have been a better card if it was like a fact or fiction type card, but that's just, like my opinion, man. Then we have Meat Hook Massacre 2. I didn't speculate on this card a whole lot. I did like how they just made the name Meat Hook Massacre 2, but this is, sequels are definitely worse than the first films, and that's the case with this card. It's just not as playable as the first card. So granted, I mean, the first card was really, really good. This card, it just seems like a gigantic mana cost for not as good of a payout as you would expect for that mana cost. So I imagine we'll see play in some commander decks and whatnot, but this is definitely not as good as the first card. Then we have Orphans of the Wheat, and this is just a play on, like I said, Children of the Corn. If you look at the art here, you can definitely see that. It's a white creature, cost 1 and a white, 2/1. Whenever Orphans of the Wheat attacks, tap any number of untapped creatures you control. Orphans of the Wheat gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature tapped this way. So this is another way to enable the survival mechanic without attacking. So I did post something on social media about how this card is kind of like a spirit Halloween costume of Children of the Corn. So next we have Split Up. So this is the 3 mana white modal spell that we saw earlier. So choose one, destroy all tapped creatures, or destroy all untapped creatures. Finally, we have Unsettling Twins. We did have the art for this one, and it is a creature. It's a white creature, 3 and a white for a 2/2, and whenever it enters, manifest dread. So this is a manifest enabler. It's a common, not too exciting here, or for a 2/2, and then you get to make another 2/2 creature by manifesting, so you get your twins there. So the flavor's kind of cool, but the card is just meh, in my opinion. So that wraps up my look at Mark Rosewater's teaser. But I do want to go over some cards that I think are standing out in this set, and some of the cards that I really enjoy flavor-wise in this set, and maybe some cards to look out for at the pre-release coming up next weekend. So let's talk about the Overlord of the Flood Pits. I love this full Overlord cycle of cards that we're getting here. It reminds me of the old Titans. So they all have impending, and they all have an ability that happens when they enter or attack. This is definitely my favorite cycle of this set, and most of them are pretty good. The one that seems really broken to me, or really gives me really the Titan vibes, is the green one here, the one that they released quite a while ago, Overlord of the Hauntwoods. I mean, this is just like a primeval Titan. So the land that it makes is every land type. It can produce any color of mana, except colorless. But like, this is an immediate domain enabler. I mean, as soon as this guy enters, you've got domain. This card seems really good. This may be the standout card of the set for me. But I really love all the Overlord cards. I love this. Another card I would be on the lookout for is this red card, Screaming Nemesis. This card seems really good. It's a 3/3 for 2 and a red. It does have haste, And when it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any other target. And then also, if a player is dealt damage this way, they can't gain life for the rest of the game. So, like, what kind of damage is dealt to this guy? If it's combat damage or whatever, you could target with your own spells and prevent your opponent from gaining life for the rest of the game. That's a pretty powerful effect. And then also, he just deals the damage right back. So pretty good in combat because you can kill creatures that are bigger than him. So to say you're up against a 2/5 creature and they deal combat damage to each other, he's going to take 2 damage. He's going to deal the 3 combat damage to them, and then you also can just turn around and send that 2 damage right back at that creature and kill it. So I think this is a really, really powerful card. So another card that I think is really good that a lot of people on the internet are talking about is this Unstoppable Slasher guy. He is a 2/3 for 2 and a black. He has Death Touch, but when he deals combat damage to a player, they lose half their life rounded up. Normally, this has been somewhat of a difficult effect to pull off with cards before, but I mean, just one hit from this guy, they lose half their life rounded up. So if they're at 20 life, you hit them with this, they go to 18, and then they lose half their life, goes down to 9. So this is like potentially hitting for 11 damage on turn 4. This seems really good. And then like third ability is when he dies, if he has no counters on him, he comes right back. So your opponents are going to have to kill this guy while he's tapped and has his stun counters on him. I really love the theme of this card. Obviously it's the Michael Myers, Jason type creature, and I really love this card, and it seems really powerful. So a card that we talked about earlier that I think is going to be really good is this Kona Rescue Beastie. Like I said, that's the one that lets you dump permanents from your hand as long as it's tapped at the beginning of your second main phase, which with Convoke and other effects that allow you to tap creatures, like crewing vehicles, saddling creatures. There's, tons of ways to tap creatures without attacking. And you can also tap these creatures while they have summoning sickness if you're crewing vehicles or saddling creatures. So this seems really powerful because you can drop some bombs down on turn 4. Drop this guy. If you have a saddler or a vehicle on board, tap this guy to crew or saddle and just drop a bomb from your hand on the battlefield. I think this is going to be really powerful, not only in standard but other formats as well. One card we do need to talk about is the red Leyline. So the red Leyline is called Leyline of Resonance. This is the one where whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only a single creature you control, copy that spell, and you can choose new targets for the copy. So this seems pretty good for cards, especially like cards that you can, pump your creature up and then like fling them at an opponent's face or something. Especially in a red deck, you can drop this turn 0. Really, though, you do have to drop this turn 0 for it to, really be explosive. But if you can, drop this turn 0 and come out swinging, real fast, I think this has the potential to be a really powerful card as well. We're going to go back to the Tale of Tamiyo. So this is the saga we talked about earlier. The first 3 abilities I think are pretty good because, especially with the delirium mechanic in this set, it does allow you to hit that delirium faster. And then I really think this card is going to like see some sort of infinite combos. People are going to build specific decks around this card that allow you to, win the game. This card just seems very abusable to me. So I don't really like it personally, but I'm sure that people are going to build some decks around it. Another creature that I like is this blue silent Hallcreeper. It's a 1/1 for 1 and a blue. It can't be blocked, and then when it deals combat damage, you get to choose one of 3 different things. So once you've used those 3 things, he's really just going to be a 3/3. But he does let you draw a card, and then you can make him a copy of another target creature. So I really like this card. It just seems fun to me. Not necessarily like a back-breaking great card, but it just seems kind of fun to me. So we did talk about this card earlier. So this is Marvin, the Murderous and Nemesis. Just looking at the abilities of this card, I'm sure there's a bunch of combos out there that are possible. I do know one infinite combo that I saw the other day with this guy, where you have a Palladium Mirror in play and a Pilipala in play, and him, and then you can just make infinite mana because you can tap him for mana and then untap and then add a mana and just do that, and then you can just make infinite mana. And then the final card that I'm going to talk about that I think is really good is this Hauntwoods Shrieker card. So 1 and 2 green, 3/3. When it attacks, you get to manifest Dread, and then you get to pay 2, a 1 and a green to flip a permanent card that you have turn face down. You can flip it face up. So this, anything that makes those costs cheaper and allows you to do it multiple times, I think is a really powerful effect. And I think this card, along with the Kona Rescue Beastie, seems pretty good. Let's talk about the flavor of this set. So I was hesitant when this set was announced because I figured that, I really thought they were just going to make everything horror movie trope cheesy. Honestly, the Eldraine sets are kind of overdone for me. I do like some of the stuff in them, and I do, like having some of the tropes and stuff, but especially like Eldraine, it seemed really, really overdone for me. And I really think they nailed it with this set. I love all the stuff that they put in this set, all the 80s horror movie references. It doesn't seem overdone to me. I think they really nailed the flavor. And speaking of flavor, I gotta point out this card. There is a card in each set that I really, try to pick out that I love flavor wise. Off the top of my head, from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, I think it was Lost Caverns of Ixalan. It was Eaten by Piranhas. That card just oozed flavor for me. I really love that card. That was one of my favorite cards flavor wise from that set. But this set, the card that just kind of, I'm just blown away by this card as far as flavor, is Haunted Screen. So just looking at this card, it doesn't look like much. It's a 3 cost mana rock that lets you tap to add black or white, or you can tap, pay 1 life to add green, blue, or red. And then you can put 7 counters on it and make it a creature. So looking at this, it's a freaking TV, right? And it's just a regular black and white TV to start with. And then you can pay life and you can make it a color TV, and it's freaking red, green, and blue. I just love it. And then you can pay 7 and turn it into a creature. It kind of, gives you the vibes from the Ring movie with the, 7 counters and stuff. So this is probably my favorite card in the set flavor wise. No, this is definitely my favorite card in the set flavor wise. I freaking love this card. So another thing from this set I really love is the rooms. I love having the split cards and having them you be able to play both sides at will. So the early split card, you had to pick a side, and then they kind of did other variants on this where you could play it from your graveyard, and they had the fuse mechanic where you could choose both sides. Now you can just choose both sides, at will on your own, just by paying the mana cost. So the rooms seem really fun to me. I love the artwork on them, how they kind of tie the rooms together and have the wall and sometimes what's in between the walls on that. So the room mechanic seems really fun to me. I really like that. So then we have the fear of cards. So we have much like fear of abduction, fear of missing out, those types of cards. So I kind of like these. So they're all enchantment creatures that are nightmares, which I think is pretty cool because so most of our fears, a lot of our fears come from our nightmares, and I think this is a cool group of cards that they have here, the fear cards. But another thing I like about this set too, like I talked about earlier with the Norin card, is this the lurking evil type cards, where they have just slight differences in the art with some of these different creatures in the backgrounds, or kind of hidden in the cards. I think these are pretty cool. I like that. I like when they do little things like this in the set. It does make it a little bit more difficult to collect these cards, as far as where do they belong? Do they belong at the ends of the set as far as collector number? Where would you put them in a binder? But I think we've got maybe 10 cards in this set that have that. It's not a huge deal as far as I'm concerned. when they do little things like this. I enjoy it. In fact, you know what? As long as the set fits in a regular 9-pocket portfolio binder, I'm happy. Let's talk about just a few cards that you should be on the lookout for when you're playing in your pre-release. Obviously, these Overlords are going to be pretty powerful. So if you open one of the Overlords, I would definitely try to build around that card. Those, like I said, the effects are really good. The fact that you can just pay the impending cost for them instead of the regular casting cost, really good to me. Toby, Beastie Befriender, seems like a pretty good card to open up for your pre-release. Any of the rooms, really, I think, are worth playing and building around, maybe. The ley lines, I don't know how good they're going to be in like a limited format. Some of them are decent, but I don't think they're really an auto include for me in my pre-release decks. They do have some powerful effects, but I wouldn't really build my deck around it. The Mind Skinner is another card I'd be on the lookout for. So I would pay attention to this card because in a 40 card format, if your opponent's drawing 7 cards, so if you turn around and mill them on turn 4 for 10 cards, half their library is gone on turn 4 just from that one creature. So yeah, I would, if I open one of those, I'd definitely play that. Hopefully, you get some of those skull crab cards or some of the other mill cards in this set. So yeah, if you open that guy and some other good mill cards, I'd definitely play that guy at the pre-release. Some other cards to look out for at your pre-release too are the enduring cards. So you've got a cycle of enduring cards. Those seem pretty good to me. That cycle of cards, I'd definitely build around those types of cards. Obviously, you're going to look out for cards like the Unstoppable Slasher, or the Valgavok cards. Definitely those, look out for those bombs. So another card I wanted to bring up too is Pyroclasm. Pyroclasm's back, baby. So this card is a classic. It's, sorcery, 1 and a red for 2 damage to each creature. The red possible board wipe is really good, and I'm glad to see Pyroclasm back. Another card to look out for is the Razorkin Needlehead. It's 2 red, but still, I think whenever an opponent draws a card, dealing 1 damage is pretty good, depending on what kind of deck you're playing against. So this turn Inside Out card is a pretty good combat trick for red. I think it's a 1 red instance that buffs your creatures and then lets you manifest if it dies. I think that's a card to look out for. So like I talked about earlier, this Hauntwoods Shrieker card, I think is pretty good. I'd look out for that one if you're playing green at your pre-release. So this is another card that I might try to build around at the pre-release. It's Winter. He is 3 colors though, so it does make it a little more difficult. I think overall he's a really good creature. Probably standard playable. But if I had the right cards at the pre-release, I might try to build around this guy and maybe splash that 3rd color. Let's talk about the lands real quick. So we have 2 cycles of lands in this set. One of the cycles is a common cycle, and you get to put them in play untapped if a player has 13 or less life. I'm not too excited about this cycle of lands. Being at common is fine. I guess you do have the chance of them coming into play untapped, but basically, to me they're just intercept lands. But we do have this other cycle of cards that I'm actually kind of excited about. They look pretty cool. It's the rare cycle, the Verge lands, I think is what everybody's calling them. So they are, they do tap for 2 different colors of mana. So you can tap for, 1 color of mana with these, but to tap for the other color of mana, there is a restriction. And you can only tap for that color if you have one of the lands. In the instance of Blazemire Verge here, you can only tap if you control a swamp or a mountain. We had a similar land in Future Sight called Nimbus Maze, and so Nimbus Maze lets you do kind of something similar. So Nimbus Maze was a little more restrictive than these. You can see here that you add white if you control an island, or you add blue if you control a plane. It looks like these lands are kind of less restrictive Nimbus Mazes. I kind of really like these lands, actually. So that's a recap on some of the cards from Duskmourn. Hopefully you guys are able to get out to a pre-release coming up on the 20th of September. So hopefully everyone has good luck at the Duskmourn pre-release, and don't forget to like, shower, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.